I live alone, so I have no explanation for the sound of someone carefully pulling out a kitchen chair at 3 a.m. This happened about 3 years ago when I was 26. I just moved into a ground floor apartment by myself for the first time. No roommates, no pets, nothing. It was a small 2-bedroom unit in a quiet part of Columbus, Ohio. I used the second bedroom as storage because I couldn't afford to furnish it. The neighborhood wasn't bad, mostly older couples, a few families. The kind of street where people leave their recycling bins out a day too long and nobody really talks to each other, but nobody bothers you either. I'd moved in sometime in late October. I remember because I was still unpacking boxes when Halloween passed, and I didn't have a bowl for candy, so I just turned my lights off and ate cereal for dinner. That was basically my life at the time. I was working a data entry job from home, which meant my schedule was pretty loose. I'd wake up around 8, make coffee with this old Mr. Coffee machine I'd had since college, sit at my kitchen table and work until around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then watch TV or go for a walk. Same thing most days. I was comfortable. A little lonely maybe, but comfortable. The kitchen table is important to mention because I had this habit, and I know it sounds strange to even bring up, but I always pushed my chair in when I got up. Every single time. My mom drilled that into me when I was a kid, and it just stuck. Doesn't matter if I was getting up for 30 seconds to grab something from the fridge. Chair gets pushed in. It sounds like a nothing detail, but I'm telling you this because it matters later. The first time I noticed something off was a Tuesday night in early November. I'd gone to bed around 11:30. I was almost asleep when I heard something from the kitchen. It was a scraping sound. Low, brief, like a chair leg dragging across tile. I lay there for a second and told myself it was the building settling. Old buildings make noise. I'd been hearing the pipes knock since I moved in. I didn't get up. I fell asleep maybe 10 minutes later. I didn't think about it again for a few days. Then it happened again. Thursday, I think. This time I was still awake, watching something on my laptop in bed. It was around midnight. Same sound, that low scrape, like something shifting on the kitchen floor. This time I did get up. I walked down the short hallway, turned on the kitchen light, and looked around. Everything looked exactly like I'd left it. Chair was pushed in. Back door was locked. Window above the sink was closed and latched. I checked the front door too. Locked. I stood there for probably a full minute just looking at nothing and then went back to bed. I told myself it was the refrigerator. The compressor kicks on sometimes and the whole unit shudders a little. I'd noticed that before. That was probably it. For a while, nothing happened. Or if it did, I slept through it. December came. I started keeping the kitchen light on at night because the apartment felt dark in a way I couldn't really explain. Even though I wasn't scared exactly, I just didn't like the dark at the end of the hallway. I bought one of those LED plug-in night lights and put it near the kitchen outlet. Made me feel less stupid about the light bill. The next time I heard it was sometime in mid-December. I remember because I'd wrapped Christmas presents that evening and I was up later than usual, maybe 1:30 or so. I'd just turned off the TV when I heard it. But this time, it wasn't just the scrape. It was a sequence. First the scrape, then silence, then the refrigerator hum. Except the hum didn't kick on. It cut off. Right in the middle of running. Just stopped. And in that silence I heard the scrape again, slower, more deliberate. I sat on the couch and didn't move for probably 2 minutes. I was listening so hard I could hear my own pulse. Then the refrigerator kicked back on, and I convinced myself that was the whole explanation. The compressor cycling off had just lined up weirdly with the building noise. I went to bed. I locked my bedroom door, which I hadn't done before. I told myself it was just a habit I was starting. By January, I'd mostly stopped thinking about it. Then one night, January 9th, I actually remember the date because I'd ordered pizza and the receipt was still on the table. I woke up at around 3 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep. I lay in bed for probably 20 minutes before I decided to get up and drink some water. I walked to the kitchen. The chair was pulled out. Not knocked over, not at an angle. Pulled out. Straight back from the table, the way you'd pull a chair out to sit down in it. About 1.5 feet from the table's edge. And it was my chair. The one I always used. The one I pushed in every single time I got up. I stood in the doorway and stared at it. I didn't go in. I don't know why. I just stood there. My brain was doing that thing where it tries to find any other explanation before landing on the obvious one. Maybe I forgot to push it in. I never forgot. But maybe this time, maybe I was tired. I almost talked myself into it. Then I looked at the back door. The deadbolt was unlocked. Not the handle lock. The deadbolt. The one that you can only unlock from the inside, manually, by turning the latch. There's no key for it from outside, I know, because the landlord told me when I moved in. He made a point of it. Said it was a security feature. I hadn't unlocked it. I didn't use that door. I'd used it maybe twice since moving in, once to drag in a box, once to throw out a bag of garbage when I was too lazy to go around front. Both times in October. I hadn't touched it since. I backed down the hallway into my bedroom and closed and locked the door. I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark with my phone in my hand. I didn't call 911. I don't know why I didn't call 911. I think part of me still wasn't ready to say out loud what I thought was happening, because once you say it, you can't unsay it. I texted my friend Marcus instead at 3 a.m. and just said, "Hey, are you awake?" He wasn't. I sat there until it was light out. I don't think I slept. In the morning, I called the non-emergency police line. 2 officers came by around 10. They were polite. They walked through the apartment, checked the back door, looked around outside. One of them asked if I had a habit of sleepwalking. I said I didn't think so. He said it was possible. I'd unlocked the door myself without remembering. The other one asked if I'd had anyone over recently. I said no. They said the lock didn't show any signs of being tampered with, and there was nothing on the exterior that suggested a break-in. They told me to keep my doors locked and to call back if anything else happened. They were there for maybe 15 minutes. After they left, I walked the whole apartment again by myself. Nothing was missing. Nothing was moved except the chair. I checked every window, every closet, the storage room. Nothing. I called my landlord and asked about the door. He said the lock was original to the building, installed in the early 90s, and that it had never given any tenants trouble. He offered to change it out. A guy came the following week and replaced the whole deadbolt assembly. I stopped hearing the scraping sound after that. Or if I heard it, I convinced myself I didn't. But about a month later, I was talking to my neighbor. Oh, older woman, retired, lived in the unit above me. We were both getting our mail, and she asked how I was settling in. I told her fine. She mentioned, kind of casually, that the unit before me had had some issues with a previous tenant in the building. She said it like she knew more than she was letting on, but When I asked her what she meant, she just said nothing that ever went anywhere and let herself back inside. I moved out that April. I told myself it was because I found a better apartment closer to downtown, which was true, but I also just wanted to go. I still don't know how that door was unlocked. I don't know how my chair was pulled out. I've thought about every explanation I could come up with, sleepwalking, forgetting, the latch slipping somehow, and none of them fully hold up. What I keep coming back to is that whatever that was, it had apparently been happening long enough to get comfortable, long enough to sit down. I don't know if anything ever came of whatever my neighbor was referring to. I never followed up. Maybe I should have. I still think about the chair, though. The way it was just pulled out, clean and straight, like someone had gotten up for a moment and was planning on coming back.